Probably 4 or 5 years back, when I was thinking myself, why we really hesitate to talk about the failures. I was thinking myself, even I was really hesitating probably to speak about what all the failures I encountered and what I learned from that failures. So I introduced in one of my companies where I was working, so a TV show called Taste of Failure, and I shared about my failures and how I bounced back. And few times probably it is very difficult to bounce back. So there are so many lessons we learned. With that motivation, I introduced Taste of Failure at Thai Hyderabad. In fact, I presented, conducted some workshops on Taste of Failure, and maybe few of the slides what I presented there I may reuse, but I'll try to share some of my thoughts today. What is Taste of Failure, and what is the necessity of experimentation, and then fail fast, fail small, so that you can succeed pretty fast. So that's the whole. A month back, I was in Bombay. So I attended NASSCOM's India's Leadership Forum. So there was a session by Kamal Hassan. I mean, everybody knows Kamal Hassan is one of the best heroes of India. So he talked about so many things and all. I just asked one question. Kamal Hassan, what you probably feel, what do you think of a failure when you started your career and when you encountered first time failure, how you felt and how do you bounce back? What you learned? That is probably 40 years back. And the similar failure, if you get it, probably you got it probably in the last probably couple of years back, then what was your probably an experience? What you learned and unlearned? What is the difference between the way you received the failure maybe 40 years back and the failure now? So he replied in a very interesting way. He said, first define what is failure. So what is the failure? I think if we understand that, so that will be really easy to understand and reply. So he replied like this. For me, if a movie is a super hit commercially and running 100 days, but still it is not giving me a pleasure or enjoyment, and I have not enjoyed acting in that movie, that is a failure for me. But that could be a super hit movie and commercially hit movie. So I think the key debate here is, how do you define success and a failure? I think that is very important for all of us to understand. So another interesting question I have here is, your desire is to get 25% profit, but you got only 20% profit. So what do you call that? It is a success or a failure? Still you are profitable. So with that note, I would like to give my understanding of what is success and what is failure. For everybody, it is very important to have some purpose. Whether you are working in a project, whether in your personal life, it doesn't matter what role you are playing. You are a CEO or a business head or a delivery head or a production manager or a stores manager, it doesn't matter. So there should be a purpose. If you have a purpose, it is very easy for us to define what is success or a failure. The second one, I would like to re-emphasize a fact here. You should have OARS. I talk about first mandatory thing for us is to have a purpose. The second one is we need to have OARS. Let me explain what is the meaning of that. O means ownership. When you have a purpose, you should feel a sense of belongingness to that purpose, a sense of pride to achieve that purpose, and you should do some activities with ownership and pride and sense of belongingness. So that is very important thing if you want to achieve your purpose. O means the ownership, sense of belongingness and pride. A, A means accountability. Most of the times, if the success is there, it is me. If it is a failure, it is the other side. But unfortunately, that doesn't work. Accountability means you take the success and failure equally. You take the risk and reward and penalty equally. So, for the purpose what you defined, are you taking accountability? That is the second one. Then R. R means responsibility. The role what you are playing, whether you are a parent, whether you are a father or a mother or a business unit head or a CEO, it doesn't matter. For every role, there are some defined responsibilities. So what are the responsibilities you have to fulfill to achieve that purpose? The next one is, last one is S. That is sense of urgency. What is that sense of urgency? Hunger, curiosity, fire, the passion, energy, enthusiasm. All those things will help you to achieve that purpose. Do you have that? So with these two, I would like to define what is success and failure. So there is a purpose, and to achieve that purpose, you have the ownership, you have the accountability, you have the responsibility, and you have the sense of urgency. Then I think you probably achieved the purpose. Then that is called a success. I also define the success in a way: you have a great purpose, but you have fantastic ownership, accountability, responsibility, sense of urgency, but still you fail to achieve the purpose. I call it as a success. I don't call it as a failure, because you have a great purpose, you have the sense of urgency, responsibility, accountability, and ownership to achieve that purpose. Because of the so many environmental factors and ecosystem factors and so many very uncontrollable things which probably you failed, then I call it as a success. I don't call it as a failure. Then what is failure? You have a great purpose, but you don't bother about the ownership, the accountability, the responsibility, and the sense of urgency. You don't have any of these things, and you have a great purpose. Finally, what will happen? You will never achieve that purpose. I call that as a failure. There is another category of people. There is a great purpose, there is no ownership, there is no responsibility, there is no sense of urgency, but still somehow they will achieve that purpose. I don't call that as a complete success. I call it as a partial successful. Maybe it is by luck, by some other factors you are achieving your purpose, not because of your own ownership, accountability, responsibility, or sense of urgency achieve that. So with that, I think people might define what is success, what is failure. So my fundamental definition of success or a failure is, we should have a great purpose, and we should have the ownership, accountability, responsibility, and sense of urgency. If these two are there, whether you achieve that purpose or not achieve the purpose, I call it as a success. I think if you are, most of the people I think probably who joined this session might be from startups. Let us look at, we don't know when the failure will come and greet us. After 10 years of the startup journey, nearly 71% of the companies failed. So many companies got started today, for example, and by 2024, almost 71% of those companies don't appear. So that is a trend today. So I think it's very interesting to see this chart. So percentage still operating after 4 years. So the startups after 4 years. So if you look at for information companies, information technology companies, only 37% of the companies exist after 4 years. Maybe if you look at agriculture, 56%. So what does it mean? 100% is impossible. Only few companies are successful. Okay, let us take our Indian culture. This is very interesting to know. So we are conditioned to go in a known path, and our family surrounding ecosystem prepare us for success. Your parents will say you have to get 95% marks, or you have to get BITS Pilani or IIT, or you have to get MS in Harvard or Stanford. And but they never probably try to tell you, my dear friends, it's not always, that's the great purpose, of course, okay? But they never tell you that if you don't achieve, that is quite common. And there is always a next day or a next year to bounce back. And this is the way, if you fail, you have to bounce back. Unfortunately, it was not taught by our teachers or parents in our culture, because we are always tuned to success. We are always probably bombarded with telling, hey, you have to get this, you have to get this, you have to get this. And we were not taught on, if you basically get into a failure, it is quite common, and you can always you can bounce back. So that's the reason when we fail first time, we get shaken up and feel that it is a sin and feel that it is a guilty. Unfortunately, that is the culture what we brought up. So that means what? We need to spend a bit extra effort to drive out that fear. Most of the great people today working, but they fear, if they want to start a company or if you want to take a risk and all, they always fear of failure. So that is the reason, in my view, the people who are in India are not able to do great things, but the Indians who have gone outside India and they are really getting an environment where the experimentation is recognized, where the risks are basically rewarded, and failure is not considered as a sin. So the same Indians in India are not able to flourish, but the Indians who have gone outside India and working in other countries are able to do something great. These are all cultural problems. Okay, let us look at the startup, because the next gen leaders is very keen to share the knowledge and experience and want to help the startup companies and the entrepreneurs to flourish. So that is the reason I am spending some time on that. Look at here one definition given by Eric Ries. Startup is a human institution designed to deliver a new product or a service under conditions of extreme uncertainty. Startup is experiment. This is the reason today, if you look at my title of this topic is experiment, taste of failure, experiment, fail fast, fail small, and succeed fast. So if you are building something nobody wants, what does it matter? Even if we accomplish it on time, on budget, with high quality, with beautiful design, it doesn't matter. So there was one example my boss used to tell me when I was working in TCS. There was one company, I'm sure most of the people are here from IT, you can understand the ISO 9000, CMM, the software CMM, and there are so many great processes, Six Sigma and all. That company was using all these methodologies very proudly, and they follow the process, very strict process. They collect the requirements, they do the design, they do all the compliance checks and all. So they were basically producing a product using all these things, for example. Okay, let us take this is a manufacturing company instead of IT company. So they are manufacturing some product using all these great standards and policies and procedures. Stringent compliance checks are there, audits are there, reviews are there and all. And finally, they release that product to the market. That product is a dog biscuit. But unfortunately, the dog biscuit, the dogs are not liking and they are not taking that biscuit. What happened to that product? You followed all the processes, procedures, policies and all, and probably you delivered on time, on budget, and you think, and great packaging also you have done. But finally, the dog is not liking the biscuits. Then that's not the success. So I think achieving failure also, very great definition Eric has given, successfully executing a bad plan. So whatever the plan you define has to be the right plan. Have you considered all the risks, all the environmental factors, all the capabilities, and so many things we need to consider to create a great plan or a good plan and a comprehensive plan. So if you don't create that plan and you are executing a wrong plan, that is the path for failure, and that's a very important thing we all probably need to understand. The other important definition I think Mark Evans gave here, entrepreneurialism is a high risk proposition. So failure is an inherent part that should be embraced rather than feared. So embracing failure is equivalent to not afraid of failure. So most of us in India, unfortunately, we don't embrace failure and we are basically afraid of the failure. So that's where I think we need to break. I think if you break that, Indians can do so many wonders in India itself. Okay, let me share a few examples here. Very interesting one. A famous story from IBM, basically a man made a $10 million error and a big boss, I think he thought he will be sacked. So he apologized and also submitted the resignation, the employee who did that mistake. So refusing the resignation, the boss said, goodness, man, we can't lose you now. We have spent just a $10 million on your education. Look at the culture here, what IBM promoted. So when the guy failed and there is a 10 million loss because of that failure, the boss said, we spent this on your education. Imagine what is the culture. Imagine the guy who got this opportunity again, how loyal he will be, and he will never probably leave IBM, and he will make sure next time he's embraced this time, he will not do the mistakes, probably same mistakes. Maybe he might do different mistakes. I think this is one example really touched me. I thought I want to share here. Then the second example, Henry Ford. He failed and went broke 5 times before they finally succeeded. Very interesting. But he's known very well in the automotive industry, but he failed almost 5 times. Walt Disney was fired by a newspaper editor for lack of ideas. But can you imagine today the Disneyland, and without ideas and without innovation, can you do that? So the Walt Disney was fired by newspaper editor for lack of ideas, but he built an extraordinary Disneyland. Okay, so what does it mean? So that means, do you want to design your business for failure or your life for failure? I don't think so. So when I'm saying the taste of failure, the objective here is whatever precautions we have taken, whatever risk mitigation plans we design, there are few times we tend to fail. It is unavoidable circumstances. But the point what here I'm emphasizing here is, when we fail, how we bounce back. When we fail, how we probably don't repeat the same mistake next time when we do that same activity or other activities. So the key here is, we are almost every day moving in a very unknown path. Look at here what happened to the businesses in the space of newspapers, or landline phones or cameras. Mobile phone has killed the cameras. The landline phones, I think in India, that revolution was not there. The complete mobile has invaded. Newspapers, most of the people are now reading in the digital newspapers, in the mobile phones or tablets. So it is always, life is very unknown and very uncertain. So failure is expected, but the failure, it is a big failure, or are you able to identify the symptoms of the failure well in advance? Are you able to fail fast? Are you able to fail small? I think that is the most critical thing for all of us, to acquire that skill of early warning system. Are the symptoms of failure are clearly visible? Are you ignoring, or are you probably factoring them to design? One of my friend, I think when there is something like Titanic, you all know that there is a great movie and there is a great ship and all. One ad I saw at London, why Titanic ship got sunk into the ocean. The immediate answer everybody gives is iceberg. But the ad says, it is not iceberg, it is a wrong design. Very great example. The other reason for failure in Titanic, to emphasize my point, it seems the captain got so many or plenty of early warnings about the ship, but they ignore. I think if you want to get into that experimentation zone, the most critical skill, what we all need to acquire to is, and also to build that system is early warning system. As a startup, are we building early warning system with the help of our teams or with our own capabilities or with the surrounding ecosystem? And then if you identify any failure symptoms, then you can fail fast, you can fail small, so that you can bounce back. This is another thing which I have shown. This is something which I draw myself. For a startup, look at there. So there is something you started. The key here is then there will be going down. There is a failure, and then you are bouncing back, and then again you are emerging stage. So you are a startup, then emerging stage again. There is some slowdown will happen, then some stabilization, and then you bounce back. Then in the maturing stage, you will stay for long. Then after maturing stage, again you come down because of the changes in the markets or shifts or trends. Again, you will bounce back. I think this is an accepted graph. In my view, of course, people can challenge here. Whenever we started the companies or whenever we start something great initiatives and all, so there will be initial stability, or initially it is on something like honeymoon in my view. Everything is looking horizontal, going fine, or a small aberrations and all. After that, it will come down, and then you bounce back, and then bit of a stability, then come down, and then bounce back and all. So I think we need to accept this. This is something, a common phenomenon. But the key here is, what is the depth of the failure you want to leave or leak? If you don't have that early warning system, you will come down. The circles I have shown there, the green circles. If you look at in the startup, and then there is a green circle immediately. So can you limit your depth of failure only to that first green circles? That means your depth of failure is very small. If you ignore your early warning systems, you will come down to the depth, but there is no guarantee that you can bounce back. So the most critical thing here is accept the fact that startup, emerging, maturing, these three phases we all go through. But how you basically reduce the depth of failure is the key here. For that, we all have to build the early warning system. All right, again the early warning systems, if you look at here, I defined zone of failure. So if you take any project or any startup or any work we do, we go with assumptions. During assumptions, everything looks very green. We will say that customer will give the requirements within so and so date, and you will think that the infrastructure will be available by so and so date. You basically assume that the talent required you will get by so and so date. Everything you assume. The life is assumptions. But unfortunately, most of the assumptions go wrong. Most of the assumptions what we basically made in the beginning may not go right. So once the assumptions basically decide, then you slowly getting into risks. That means you know that some of the assumptions are not happening. This is where the early warning system. In the beginning of the startup, you made an assumption, probably an investor gives you money. XY probably by end of some month. Maybe by end of March or by end of June probably 2014 you expect some money. But in March and February you identified some symptoms. The investor is not showing much of the interest, or the investor body language got changed, or investor responsiveness got reduced, or investor start making some loose comments. Then that means you identify a risk. If you don't have that early warning symptoms identification, then the risks will lead to issues. That means investor has not given the money, then you are into issue zone. Then if you are not able to get the money from other investor or through your contacts, then you get into crisis. Then if you are not able to manage the crisis, you get into failure. So the point what I would like to emphasize here is, if you want to fail small, if you want to fail fast, you should stop probably at the issues level. Again, this is possible with a properly designed early warning system. So assumptions, risks, issues, they are okay. But if you don't stop there with the early warning system, if you don't mitigate, then suddenly you get into the crisis and failure. Then your failure will be pretty big and your failure will be pretty, very dangerous. Okay, in my view, the definition of taste of failure is what not to do. You have to learn. Once you experience the failure, what you have to learn. The failure is basically, as I mentioned, is a common phenomenon. But what you have to learn from failure, what not to do, what to unlearn. And similar project or initiative is given to you, again, even after failure, how differently you do that. I think this is something we all need to learn from failure. So one example, so when I was in one of the companies, probably in 2000, I was a superstar in that company. At 5 years of my experience, I went to London. The company what I worked at is globally recognized IT company, the #1. And I was a very successful project manager at that time, and probably a star performer. I thought the similar thing I can repeat at London. I went with basic assumptions, which I was successful in my previous project. A mainframe guy, technology guy can be trained in Java, can be used for development. Visual Basic guys can be trained in Java, and the architecture of WebSphere and the MVC architecture is not a big deal. These guys who got trained in Java and all other small areas can do that architecture. So with that assumptions, I basically went to London. In fact, I put tremendous efforts to make sure the raw material called the people who has the mainframe skills and Visual Basic skills are trained for 2-3 months, and I thought I can make it happen. After we all went there in May, in June, I got the symptoms, I got the risks of these guys. I think I'm getting into a dangerous zone. So what I did, I identified early warning symptoms. I pulled my regional manager. I gave a matrix of these are all the 15 people, and this is something a skill or a capability required. And at present we have 0 to 1 out of the 5, and we are going to get into this failure zone. But unfortunately, the regional head took it something negative. He said, "You are not able to manage this project. Because you are not able to manage this project, you are telling all these reasons. In our company, we are always basically able to deliver projects by cross-skilling the people. But unfortunately, Java at that time in 2000 were very new. And when my team started developing the code, we are getting null point exceptions. And when the people touch and test it, it is bombing." So that's where I got into now issues zone now. And during issues zone, I also invited the country manager. And the country manager also said, "Regional manager, please look into this. What comments VSR raised are very, very valid. You have to immediately get into this and sort this out and see if you want to replace some of the people, you do that." The regional manager said, "Yes, yes, yes." But finally, he was still believing that I was not performing well, and he did not help me or supported me. Other important aspect there is the assumption we made was the client will support. Yes, the client management team was supporting, but there is a lot of backlash in London by so many people there. Few people who are on the testing team were damn against our company because this company came from India and want to take our jobs, and they want to prove us wrong. And they got an opportunity. Whatever the code drops developed by our team, completely mess, and it is a failure. So finally the client said, "You guys investing on my company's money to train your people, can you please get lost?" So I think that is the first failure I encountered. As an individual, the client said, "You are a great account manager and project manager, but you did not get the right team, and it is a complete failure. You are not able to deliver the quality outcome." But having said all these things, the one project management excellence what I brought in, every week I used to send the status reports, and I used to have the meetings with client and my regional head and sometimes the country manager. So the client want to sue $1 million, but my project management excellence has helped to prove them the mistakes are 50% from our end and 50% from our end. It's not only just capability problems from our end, and it is also you are not able to give the requirements, you are not able to give the infrastructure, you are not able to give the time, and a lot of delays happen because of you. So it is a 50-50. So let us not get into that. Let us sort it out amicably. Okay, what that failure taught me? So many things. That was my first failure, and I was shaken up. And I cried literally. Why this happened to me? But finally, there are few learnings. When I got failed, the way I behaved was entirely different. I was emotional. I was very much against my regional head because I was in the impression that he was not helping me. Even I raised the concerns, so on and so forth. And I used to I lost my tone, and in fact, I blasted. I was a bit rude also. Then one of the senior colleagues told, where you fail, you should be very cool and you should respect others. Whose mistake is secondary, but when the failure happens, we should not lose our balance. We should be emotionally balanced. The facts will be known later, but never and ever lose the emotions and never and ever insult the others when you fail. And at that time, there are some incidents happen and you have to be careful. So that's where one important thing he said. The second important thing I think I learned is when you have the assumptions, when there is assumptions are going wrong. In fact, some of the people said, you just stopped escalating this to country manager. Why you have not gone to the CEO of the company? Your early warning system is fantastic. You are able to gauge the problems, you educated, your management, only mid-level management. But where is your failure is you have not escalated this to high-level management. That means the CEO. The third important lesson what some of my senior colleagues mentored me is, wherever regional head and country manager is not sorting out this problem, there is something called a private channel. You have to send some private messages to your CEO or other senior managers in a very professional way, not in a complaining mode, but requesting them to review that particular project or initiative, because you should not hurt your immediate reporting manager and also your reporting manager's reporting manager. So you have to really use that private communication mechanism, inviting the superman or super boss to come for a 15 minutes review or 30 minutes review and highlight the point so that that particular CEO or somebody can put some sort of a clear plan of action to the next level guys. You could have avoided this failure. And so anyhow, so this is something I learned in a very hard way. Don't go with assumptions that the mediocre people and low capable, low skilled people can do wonders. Few times you will be successful. The other important difference is when you are in India and when you have so much of resources available, when you are tending towards a failure, there are so many hands come and help you. But when you are on site, a place like London, you have to sort out the problems yourself. You will never get the people to sort out those problems. But if you are in India, you can call a project mate in other projects or some other projects or some other projects. But here it is very difficult in other places. So that is another lesson what I learned. I think from that time onwards, I always make sure that, so I use all the mechanisms to make sure the stakeholders are very much aware of. It doesn't matter what designation position they are. They should aware of what are the risks and what are the assumptions we made and what are the issues we made. Okay, you have a choice to taste the failure in a startup or any other initiative. Taste the failure from your own experience, which is very costly, and taste the failure from others' experience. So the others' experience here. So for example, I shared only one example here. Maybe this is a very simple webinar. Maybe we can have a one-day workshop on complete taste of failure and invite the people who experienced the failure and how they bounce back. So you will understand the similar problems what they faced, how they sort it out. There is no need for you to reinvent the wheel. Of course, the circumstances might be different, but certainly the knowledge what you acquire from others' failure is, I think, cheaper than you fail yourself and then investing too much of money and mental tensions and bounce back is but a bit costlier. So why taste of failure is a key for sustainable success? This is where I think the title. One thing, the heroic efforts doesn't help. Maybe 15 years back, I used to think I was a superstar and I can do anything and everything. But after my first failure, I realized it's not my individual capability. It's my ecosystem capability. It's my team capability. It is my customer capability. It is my management capability. And the heroic efforts doesn't work. When you have the capabilities in all these dimensions, then only the success is possible. So learning from others helps improving the probability of success. That's where, for example, the next gen leaders, our emphasis is to make sure we want to bring the senior people, their lessons learned, their failures, their successes. If we share, the learning will go up and most of you can practice. So the thing here is, I don't encourage you, do not fail. Don't fail, but taste the failure in advance. That means early warning system is the most critical thing. Taste the failure from your own experience or from others' experience. It is 10x effective and enable you to condition you to move in the path of success. All right, so another thing is this one, I thought this statement will give you a good meaning. Accept failure as a guest. It is important. You cannot avoid the guests. The guest will come, you will basically embrace the guest, you respect the guest, you treat them well, treat the failure very well. But you don't accept the failure as a friend. The friend is always with you. It's very difficult. There is another great dialogue I have seen in the Telugu movie. I think you might have seen that Pilla Jamindar. I translated that in English. With success, the world knows you. With failure, you know the world. But my suggestion here, you fail fast, fail small, then only you can bounce back. For that, you should build an early warning system. All right, so that's I think I thought I would like to share some of my thoughts here. And if you guys have any questions, I will take.
Thank you, VSR. If anyone has questions, I request them to raise the hand symbol on your screen so that I can unmute your mic.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think what I feel is failure and success are on the same continuum. It's not something, they are kind of two different things. So it all depends upon any individual. I think sometimes we fail, sometimes we succeed. So we cannot differentiate completely, saying that certain people are failure, certain people are success. What is your opinion about it?
So you are saying that the complete differentiation between success and failure cannot differentiate them.
Yeah.
I think that's why I said the life cycle of our business, the failure will come.
Yeah.
What I said is failure as an avoid failure as a guest, not like a friend. So that emphasizes success and failure go together, but accept success as a friend and failure as a guest.
Because they say failure is, they say that many failures are like stepping stones to a destination. If the destination is success, I think failures, I think they are like stepping stones. So they are also as essential as success. That's what I think you meant, no?
I completely agree with you, but we cannot afford to have failure many times. So that's the reason I would like to emphasize the point that accept failure or invite failure as a guest, not like a friend who is always there.
Right.
Okay, any questions? Otherwise, we can conclude the call.
Yeah, 1 second. There is one question. Tejas Sura. Yeah, Tejas, you can go ahead.
Yeah, VSR, I was just looking at the title of this webinar, which is Fail Fast, Fail Small. So, basically, my question to you was, are you indicating that everybody needs to fail sometime or the other in order to improve themselves?
Okay, I am not telling that everybody should plan for failure. So I defined in the previous slide also, you have a bad plan and you executed very well. So you have, again I repeat, you have a bad plan or a worst plan, but our execution engine is fantastic. We executed superb that bad plan, then failure will come. The point I'm trying to emphasize here is we don't design failure ourselves, but the plan what we have, the environmental factors, the ecosystem support, the enabling environment, sometimes will not be in line with our execution. So you tend to fail. So what I'm trying to tell here is when you fail very depth or very deep, bouncing back is very difficult. So you have to have an early warning system within our organization, within our business, or within our project. The early warning system should give you the failure symptoms well in advance so that you can fail small, you can fail fast, so that you take some course corrections and bounce back. Does it make sense, Tejas? Hello?
I think his line got dropped, looks like.
Yeah. All right, so can we conclude?
Yeah, looks like there are no more questions. One sec. Tejas has come back again. Tejas, you are back again?
Yeah, I'm back again. I got disconnected somehow, but I did hear what VSR was saying. So.
Okay.
I mean, does it make sense, Tejas? I mean, what
Yeah,
I was telling you,
yeah,
the bad plan, great execution, will get into failure. It's not individual capability, the ecosystem, the environment, the enabling support and all. If that is not there, we fail. So failure, we can't assume that it will not be there. It will be there, but have an early warning system so that the symptoms can be identified well in advance, so that you can fail small and fail fast.
Thanks, VSR.
That's
clear.
By the way, thanks for joining. So after a long time, we are speaking.
Yes, very, very true.
Yeah.
Okay. Looks like there are no more questions. I take this opportunity to thank VSR for his time and talking about taste of failure. And I also want to let the participants know that this webinar, the recorded version will be posted on our Next Gen Leaders website in few days. So you can also view the, listen to the webinar at your convenience. So thank you and have a great weekend. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, friends. Thank you so much.